But I'm excited about it. Aproko,
Awesome.
doctor, let's talk about cervical cancer. How serious is the situation? I mean, you heard the 2018 figures I read out.
Yeah, even as of 2018, it was recorded that about 28 women died every day from cervical cancer.
28 women.
Yeah, it's you've already mentioned it's the second most common cancer in women, secondary to breast cancer, and we now live in a society where it's looking like the incidence of cancer is more than usual, or getting it's increasing in numbers. A lot of it could be attributed to our lifestyles. But when it comes to cervical cancer, one of the reasons why it's that prevalent is because one of the major causes of cervical cancer, which is the human papillomavirus, is sexually transmitted.
Oh.
Yes. And when it has to do with cervical cancer, in the early stages of cervical cancer, there are literally no symptoms. So there's almost no way you could know a person has cervical cancer.
Okay.
But when it's somewhere you can see, for example, it's on your skin or on the outward genitals, you could see that something's going wrong and get it checked out.
Right.
But cervix is way inside.
Yeah.
And so most people live for years without even knowing. And by the time they do know, it's usually late. So when it has to do with HPV is actually a very common sexually transmitted disease.
Okay.
And it falls into two categories. There's a high risk type and there's a low risk type. The low risk type, can cause genital warts, which, many people have. And then the high risk type, there are about 14 of them. Strain 16, strain 18, strain 31, 33, 68, quite a number of them that are responsible for cancers.
Wow.
Cancers everywhere. So, or cancers in most places, for example, the penis, the anus, the vulva, the cervix, and all that. Now, when they get in contact with these cells, they tend to change the architecture of the cells over time. If the immune system does not deal with that, it leads to cancer.
Can it be stopped?
It can.
I want to talk to you some more about how this can be detected early. We're still coming to the cost, which is very integral. But how can you detect this early? What can be done?
So there are a couple of things that can be done. One of them is the pap smear.
Okay.
And there's the HPV DNA testing. That's one way to find out if you have the HPV DNA testing. But for the pap smear, the cervix is scrubbed or, brushed.
Okay.
And the cells are looked under a microscope to see if those changes have occurred. But, what we did, because, we live in a resource-poor country, let's call it what it is, we used the visual inspection on acetic acid on the field.
Right there on the field?
Yes, right there on the field.
Okay.
And we get that. We stain the cervix with a particular acid, acetic acid, and watch it for about a few minutes. When you start to see changes in those in those cells, it could give you a pointer that something is happening to these cells.
Yeah.
And at that point, what we tend to call it is precancerous lesions. So it's pre-cancer. It's not cancer yet.
Okay.
So it's pre-cancer.
Okay.
And that's no way you tell the woman, okay, you can now stand up and go home. No. You have to do something about it, because most times you lose them when you say, okay, come back in 2 weeks. Let's take care of it. Or come back tomorrow. Let's take care of it. Sometimes they go and just continue about their lifestyle. But, right there on the field, you can also treat them.
At what age should a female be worried about it, or be concerned, maybe not worried?
As long as you're sexually active.
Oh, once you're sexually active?
Yes.
So if I decide to be, I'm a lady now, I'm a virgin till like 40, I have no problem. Yeah,
so you could go a while without being, but when it has to do with the vaccine, as long as you plan to be sexually active, then you should get the HPV vaccine.
Yeah, I was coming to that, whether it can be prevented.
Yes, it can. So it can be prevented with the HPV vaccine, and it works. It works the way every other vaccine works. Just preps the body to be able to fight the virus when it meets it. So that, when it gets in contact with the cells, or rather if a person is exposed to it, it does not just necessarily just progress to cancer. The immune system has already been prepared. So it catches this virus in time, kills it, and takes care of it. So that's one way it can be prevented.
I want to talk about this vaccine some more. How affordable is it, or is it free? Why? Why decide?
We live in a peculiar country. Nigeria is blessed in so many ways.
There you go, politician.
We should all be involved in politics. So it used to be readily available
Okay.
in Nigeria. That's the vaccine.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the people who were responsible for subsidizing it pulled out. And when they pulled out, the costs just skyrocketed. So there's Cervical, which used to be readily available, but currently it's not. I would not say readily available right now, because even most private centers do not even have it. Not to talk of the public centers. Of course, there are advocates who are saying that this vaccine has to be incorporated into our national immunization schedule. So because in other civilized countries, boys and girls as low as 9 to 12 get this vaccine. But here we've not even vaccinated the women, not to talk of adding boys to the schedule. So it's usually difficult to get, and not everybody can afford Gardasil. Gardasil in most centers can cost as much as 150,000.
No way.
And you need 3 doses.
No way.
So that's 450. That's why we, when I talked to Pedro and said, this is what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So rather than bury or have some high hopes that let's get the vaccine, because there's no vaccine as because there's no vaccine as it stands. But what we need to do is screen these women and find the ones who may have precancers, and at least catch it in the nip it in the bud.